Look, here's the thing, man. Everyone's getting upset. Everyone's getting upset because they say things like, this past weekend dilutes the achievements that people had to work so hard to get. You know, whether it was going flawless for the first time or the Trials emblem where you're never down a game. I would argue and actually say Trials was probably more difficult this past weekend than ever before, but it's whatever. Or doing solo dungeons or even beating a raid for the first time. There is a huge squad of folks that believe achievements have been thrown out the window because of this bug. But listen. On a real note, I can understand where achievements have been watered down. I don't know what the percentage population that actually completed a solo dungeon is, but I would imagine after this weekend that has gone up. With that being said, does it really matter? Like in the grand scheme of things, does it really matter? Yes, I love the flex, but at the end of the day, there's two reasons why I think it doesn't really matter. Reason number one, it's a video game. And achievements in something like Destiny are important. They're noticeably more important when they first launch. As in, after this point, solo in that dungeon, although still quite the achievement, never feel like you going through and soloing any activity or going flawless for the first time is not an achievement. It is. At any point in time you do it in Destiny, it is an achievement. With that being said, though, I feel like the greatest achievement in doing any of those things is when it first launches. After that point, I couldn't care. Obviously, outside of cheating, it's like finding a new sandbox or a new sandbox update goes out and suddenly one weapon or one build becomes substantially stronger. You know, this is a dynamic game. It changes constantly. So things are not always the same. So your solo attempt for that dungeon at one time could have been way more difficult than for this next person. And this also changes season to season based on artifact perks. But the second reason that I think this is not that big of a deal is because, guys, we're all gonna die in the final shape anyways. You know, next year's gonna roll around. Witness is gonna wipe us out. Destiny 2 is probably not gonna get another annual expansion. We're gonna be on this episode thing now for who knows how long. I mean, what are you gonna do with those achievements? You think the Witness gives a fuck about your achievements? No, he's gonna finger flick us all to death. And even if we do end up beating the Witness, which narratively we probably have to, but even if we do end up beating the Witness, I do think that Destiny 2 is gonna be put on pause for a bit. I think that things are gonna be really focused on Marathon and that other game that Bungie's working on, the MOBA. So they got the extraction looter shooter. They got the MOBA. I'm just saying, Destiny 2 won't really be that big of a priority this time next year. My opinion. Could be wrong, but my opinion. So, you know, achievements, I don't know if it really matters all that much. Personally, if I was Bungie, I would make the Witness so difficult, no one could beat the Witness. We go into this raid and nobody is able to beat the raid. And then Bungie's just like, look, this is a live, dynamic game. If you can't beat the baddest of the bad, we can't make more content. Or they could even say, we've got all this content that you could play, but you can't get good. You can't even get good enough to get past the content. Can we take a poll right now? And listen, there's no wrong answer here. Did you enjoy this past weekend of Destiny 2? Not as something that you want as a regular thing, just as something that's like, completely random, out of freaking nowhere, had no idea this would ever be a thing, and at no point in the future could this be replicated. Did you enjoy this past weekend? I got some deep messages this past weekend, guys. I mean, people really standing on their high ground, man. Really questioning my moral compass, asking me deep questions like, Cross, how could you promote such a thing? And my answer is, how can I not? You know, given the opportunity at any point in the future, guys, if we're suddenly in the tower and friendly fire turns on accidentally, just out of nowhere, you think I'm not going to take advantage of that? You think I'm not going to go over there to that person that's sitting there by test trying to buy some shit from the Eververse store and completely start blasting? I hope that cheese happens. I hope it happens. Even if we do get banned from such a thing, that one moment will be worth it. All right, so 84% said yes. Most people enjoyed this past weekend. It's okay if you didn't. It's okay you didn't. If anything, this past weekend doesn't ever need to be a regular thing. By no means. But it's one of those things we will remember forever. I'm telling you, this weekend in Destiny will be remembered forever. It is on, for me, the same level as the Falador Massacre. I want us to just briefly watch this video. This is the complete history of RuneScape's Falador Massacre.
The Falador Massacre is one of the most well-known events to have ever happened in RuneScape. This event happened a little over 10 years ago, back when RuneScape was much simpler. As a result of this, very few people had a video recorder downloaded to their computer, and footage of the event is very scarce. Due to a lack of
Y'all remember back then, every time you recorded something, it's unregistered hypercam because none of us wanted to pay to remove that damn watermark.
footage, screenshots, and information, there are many different variations on what occurred on June 6, 2006. With this video, I hope to set all the facts straight and give an entire history of this event. As a result, I attempted to get research that had the most proof backing it. There are a few parts of the story that we may never know the truth to, but I did my best finding the most legitimate information I could. Enjoy.
This is a good story, guys.
It was June of 2006, and the race to the first person to achieve 99 construction was getting close. A few players such as Monkey Mojo, Nova Life, X-Noob X-Frey, and even Zezima were neck and neck. At the time, Noob was in the lead with 89 construction. In a sudden turn of events, in just one night, a player known as Cursed You managed to pass him. Cursed You at the time was an incredibly well-known staker and had earned the majority of his money this way. He had billions of GP at the time and managed to rocket from the low 100s on the high scores all the way to first place. Once he reached 99, his private messages and house began to fill up very quickly. Cursed You had achieved an amazing feat and became the first person to achieve 99 construction. He achieved this feat on the infamous date of June 6, 2006. His 99 party began and his house began filling with players. Another now well-known player known as Duriel321 was informed by one of his friends about this party and was in attendance. The party started to get extremely out of control as his house began filling with hundreds of people. He had no choice but to kick every player from the house to try and bring back the peace. Upon exiting, a few players noticed they could now attack other players despite being in a safe area. One of these players was the previously mentioned Duriel321. This next part is highly controversial and is still debated to this day. The bug that caused the glitch to happen was not a result of the combat arena downstairs, but rather the scrying pool.
Oh!
Players who looked in
I
the
didn't know
scrying
that.
pool were able to see around RuneScape's world. When Cursed You kicked everyone from the house, everyone looking through the scrying pool would be teleported to outside the house forcibly. Cursed You had kicked everyone from the house and left it, which means there was nowhere for these players to return upon exiting the pool. As PvP mode was on in the basement of the house where the scrying pool was located, those players didn't have PvP mode disabled when they were kicked. Now, this is just a very basic overview of what caused the glitch. For those interested, another YouTuber by the name of Mr. Bug goes far more in depth on the subject, and I highly suggest watching this video if it interests you. It was very early in the morning in the UK, and the massacre began. Duriel321, as well as a few other players, were geared up and began their rampage across RuneScape, doing whatever they wanted. This is when a few players began recording the event, one of the most notable players being Sinai. Up until very recently, Sinai's video is one of the few videos we had to look at the event. Sinai followed Duriel for the duration of this video and looked prepared for a possible fight, as he was fairly well stocked up on food and potions. Very recently, on this past 10th year anniversary, more footage was found recorded by Bearmaster0, Polmerbat, Jotdom, and a few other various players. Anyway, Duriel began his rampage through Falador, as other players with his abilities seemed to have split into separate areas. Duriel managed to PK quite a few people with valuable loot, with the best item being a yellow party hat.
Oh
Duriel
my
ended up losing a majority of the items he
Can you
gained, as nearby looters were
imagine?
grabbing items before he could. Speaking of party hats, in a later interview with Duriel, he claims one of his friends stole his green party hat. Now, this is not the party hat he is seen wearing in the videos and images. The one he traded to his friend was a different one, as he wears one the entire time this is.
Okay, yes, party hats were like the most expensive things inside of RuneScape. All right, so, and since items are tradable, it's like, I would say most items range from like 100 to like a mil. Like most items range from that, and then like higher level items get from anywhere between like 1 mil to 5 mil. But then like a party hat at that time, at that time, party hats were probably only like 100 mil tops, but they got up to like 1 billion and whatnot. So they're by far the most expensive items outside of maybe like sigils.
He traded his party hat to his friend before his account was locked, hoping he could keep it safe. There's actually footage of him trading another player, as seen in the video by Bearmaster0. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the massacre occurred very early in the morning in the UK, where Jagex is based. A few JMods were somehow alerted that something was happening in-game and needed to be fixed. A couple of them quickly rushed to the office to try and handle the situation. A statement made by Mod Matt K on Reddit is that Mod Ash was the one that did end up fixing the bug and was paid overtime for doing so. At the same time, Mod Murdoch had logged into the game and was kicking and locking the accounts of all players involved. By the time Murdoch had gotten to Duriel, he had managed to make it all the way up to Edgeville. Mod Murdoch sent Duriel a message, who then locked him out of his account shortly after. Finally, the chaos was over, but now Jagex had to deal with the aftermath. A few hours after this ended, Paul Gower made an official statement on the RuneScape forums. Although the forum topic no longer exists, there's still a copy of it saved on tip.it for anyone who wishes to read it. but I'll go over a few major points. He stated that they wouldn't be able to refund anyone's items as there were too many fake requests for the items to be returned. They couldn't do it as well because too many players were affected by the original glitch that would have their accounts rolled back too. Although this next part isn't included in the statement, it's still important. Nearly everyone involved with this glitch was banned for one reason or another. Duriel321 and a few other PKs were banned for abusing this bug. Cursed was also banned, but not for the reasons you might think. I'll be covering why he was banned later in this video.
Now, understand, when you got banned in RuneScape, like, and these were permanent bans, right? I'm certain they were permanent bans. It's similar to like Destiny, but even more painful because you have skills, right? Like these things take years. These skills take years to get, or at least back then especially. Like they took years to grind for. So you lost your account. It hurt, man. It really hurt.
Before beginning, I'd like to tell you the majority of this information comes from the interview with him that was posted at tip.it. This interview was so popular that they were getting about 500 requests every 5 minutes to view it, causing the servers to become flooded. Anyway, according to the interview, Duriel was a 16-year-old male from the United States of America. He'd been playing RuneScape for a little over the year and he had joined in 2005. The main enjoyment he got out of RuneScape was PKing.
Holy shit, he was only playing RuneScape for a year. He's got a fire cape, he's got a green party hat, and what are those, Aram robes?
In the interview, he also states that he feels bad for taking the other players' items from the massacre and would give them back if he could. Duriel321 ended up being permanently IP banned from RuneScape, and as far as we know, he has never come back to the game.
IP banned? That seems a little harsh. I'm just saying, would you imagine Bungie IP banning people? Or just banning people in general, but IP banning? But bro was a menace? I don't feel like he what, you know? How many of us would do it? Back then, or hold on. Yes, you're talking about VPNs, but back then, was there VPN services? We're talking, oh my God, 15 years ago? Oh my God, almost like 20 years ago? I don't remember anything about VPNs back then.
Cursed, as mentioned previously, was the first person to achieve 99 construction in RuneScape. He was an extremely well-known staker, and at the time of being banned, he had over 40 billion worth of items in GP on his account. This is extremely impressive in today's standards, but imagine how much that was back in 2006. Originally, he was banned for 4 hours while Jagex attempted to figure out what to do. This is where the incorrect belief that he was banned for abusing this glitch comes in. In reality, he was actually banned for real-world trading. According to Rs Players Wiki, Cursed friend Cursed with a 0 instead of an O logged into his account and walked around asking players if they wanted to exchange millions of GP for real-world currency. He obviously tried to appeal it, but was sadly denied. Little did we know this was not the last time we would be seeing Cursed.
Well, alright. I was about to say.
Cursed actually did end up returning to RuneScape early this year in January of 2016. This time under the name Cursed, but with 2 S's instead of just 1. He requested to have his original name transferred, but Jagex denied his request. Now I have no idea if he still actively plays or streams, but he does have a Twitch account where he has streamed himself playing old school RuneScape. Many of the images you've seen here today actually come from the many albums on his Twitch page, so check those out if you'd like. Anyway, he had hoped to achieve maximum stats and frequently stakes. He has once again reached 99 construction out of June 2016.
Wow.
In conclusion, the Falador Massacre is one of RuneScape's most well-known events and is something that players will never forget. This event became so well known that Jagex has implemented it into the lore and even held a 10th anniversary event based around it. Lastly, I would like to thank everyone who had any part in documenting this event. This is included but not limited to recording footage, capturing screenshots, performing interviews, and writing it down. Every source I've used in this video is credited with a link to the page in the description.
That's good stuff. Alright, so the thing is, guys, is that Bungie could be like Jagex, you know? Bungie could have solved this bug and exploited, and they could have just went in there and started laying down the ban hammers, which a lot of people wanted to happen. Like a lot of people were wanting that to happen. Luckily though, Bungie's policy is that if you find an exploit in their game, that's on them. Literally their policy. And I love that, which is why we do end up, you know, when we discover a bug and a cheese, you know, you take advantage of it. Not that Jagex, you know, Jagex did their ban policy back then where they banned that guy. You know, that sounded kind of harsh, but since they couldn't do a, I don't know, rollback, and because items are tradable. Let me ask you this. If I could suddenly look at Dorothy over here, I could fucking kill Dorothy right now. But not only can I kill Dorothy, every bit of gear Dorothy has on drops on the ground. And suddenly I'm able to pick up all of Dorothy's and take it and put it in my vault. I do the same thing to Xyrus and and these guys, do you think that then is bannable? Do you think in that situation, Bungie should ban? No. Yes. No. Hell yeah. Let me get a poll on that. What you're essentially coming to the conclusion on, it's like what Jagex was faced with. It wasn't like they found a bug and they were running around insta-killing, you know, some bosses or anything. Like, people were taking advantage of this and then taking folks' hard-earned money. I feel like Jagex almost had to ban because you have people missing party hats and shit. Like, dude, they want to see blood. I don't think they would have just been like, oh yeah, everything's good. You know, stuff happens, man. Lol. I don't feel like that would have lied with him, right? I feel like you had to ban him. On this topic, we're 50-50 on the split. Should Bungie ban in this situation? Actually, 60% say yes. I'm just curious. Regardless, though, guys, from what happened this past weekend, it is, to me, on the scale of Falador Massacre, in terms of being remembered forever, we need to come up with a cool name. What do we call this past weekend? The Falador Massacre, that name stuck. The location and what happened. It was a massacre of people in Falador. The crafting, the Destiny Massacre, the crafting incidents. We could call it that, the Crafting Massacre. I could get behind that. It's simple, it's easy. It's something everybody can remember. The Ammon War. I think you're overhyping it. This is only about as remarkable as the 12-man raids. No, this is definitely bigger than the 12-man raids. It was applicable everywhere. This is PvP players, PvE players, Gambit players. This isn't just raids. This is on scale way bigger. Oh, let me look at that. Trials reports. All right, so this past weekend. Oh, Lord of mercy. God damn it. The range buff really helped it, guys. I mean, on paper, it looked to be just like a small, like a noticeable bump in range, but I didn't think it was going to move the needle this much. That's impressive. Bungie Sandbox, you guys, y'all really amped this thing, man. Prodigal Return? Where the Rufus? Pardon our Does? Ranketer? Come to Pass? Austringer? Igneous? Well, that Igneous is on here. All right.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.